Good morning. Welcome to Davash Lafi. We continue in the Apocalypse, Revelation chapter 1, verse 4. Verse 4. And John Yochanan mentions, who is he writing to? He's writing to the seven Kehilot, the seven ecclesia, we mentioned yesterday, the churches, the congregations throughout Asia, which is today modern Turkey. And probably this is representative of all the congregations, the bodies of Messiah, the individual collective bodies that were there. But then who is it from? Who is it from? Let's look at that. He says it's from, listen to this, and he mentions three here in sets of three. He says it's from the being and the was and the coming, who is the one who is being, the one who was, and the one who is coming. Let me say it. The one who is really translates in the Greek, one who is and who was and is the coming, erchomenos, one who's coming. Well, what is he saying? Where is he taking this from? The one who is, again, being, on in Greek, and the on the ain who was, and well, is taken from back in Exodus, the Shemot, which back in Exodus, where God speaks to Moses and he says, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh in Hebrew. Exodus 3:14, God says his name to Moses. He says, I will be who I will be. We Christians normally translate it, I am who I am. God says, I am who I am. But in the Hebrew, it's really in that imperfect Hebrew tense. Remember, Hebrew has a perfect and a completed, basically, and an incompleted tense. It's basically God saying, I will be who I will be. I will always be the same. I never change. Hebrews 13:8 says, he is Yeshua HaMashiach is the same. Jesus the Messiah is the same yesterday, today, and forever. God says, I will be who I will be. I am unchanging. I am the Lord. I change not. Malachi 3:6, I believe it is. So God is saying, this is from the word in Hebrew, God's name, Yud He Vav He. The tetragrammaton is the theological term for that word. Big name, but it's haya from the verb to be. God is saying, God said to Moses, I will be who I will be. He said, you are to say to the children of Israel, I will be, I am, or I will be, has sent me to you. God says, I will be always with you. The one who is all encompassed, outside of time and space, but he has time in his hands. He controls all things. He is outside of the dimensions of time and space, and yet he controls all things. So, and of course he controls. So he says, I will be who I will be. And this is where John Yochanan, in writing the Apocalypse, is saying, he says, this letter, this writing, this book is from him who is and who was and who is coming again. He's going to return again. He will be, and not only he will be, but he's coming again to establish his kingdom, and he will be. Then he says, secondly, it's from the seven spirits, and from the seven spirits. Now, what is this seven spirits? Seven spirits before the throne of him. Well, the seven spirits could be a couple possibilities. Seven archangels. Psalm 104 verse 4 says, he makes his angels spirits, his servants of flaming fire. He makes his angels spirits, his servants of flaming fire. So could these be seven archangels? And there are names in the Bible of archangels. But more likely, most scholars believe it to be the sevenfold spirit, the ruach. Ruach is Hebrew for spirit. The spirit, the ruach of Ruach Elohim, the spirit of God. Isaiah 11:2, the spirit of the Lord will rest upon him, upon the Messiah, it says. And the spirit of, this is a messianic prophecy, the spirit of insight, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of the fear of Adonai. And it says, and he'll revel in the spirit, he'll excel in the spirit, in the fear of the Lord. A complete manifestation of the being of the Holy Spirit, all of his attributes, all of his attributes. So from the sevenfold Spirit of God. And then he says, thirdly, it's from Yeshua the Messiah, and from Yeshua, in the Greek, Esu Christo, or Yeshua the Messiah, the witness. And then it mentions three dimensions, three aspects of who Yeshua is. And these will blow you away. These blow us away. Faithful, he is the faithful witness. He's the faithful witness. He's trustworthy. In other words, faithful. In Hebrew, emunah, he's trustworthy. We can count upon him. We can count upon him to be absolutely trustworthy. He's the faithful witness. And pistuo in the Greek, pistos in the Greek, martus, and then faithful, pistos. But the martus, pistos, pistus, the faithful witness. And then he's the martyr through his own death. And he's the witness. God is in control. Isaiah 55 verse 4 is a prophecy of the Messiah. Behold, I made him a witness to the peoples. He made the Messiah, Yeshua, a witness to the peoples. Secondly, he's the firstborn from the dead. The firstborn from the dead. Awesome. Wow. Colossians 1:18 says he is the head of the body, his community. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so that he might come to have first place in all things. What does that mean? Well, firstborn, prototokos, almost sounds like, well, never mind. Prototokos in the Hebrew it would be bachar, and bachar means to force out of the womb, to force out of the womb. He is the first one to be forced out of death, and he comes into life evermore, born just like out of the womb into the world, comes into the world, you're born into the world, and you're now out of the mother's womb into the world forevermore. And he's the firstborn, first, proto, because many follow. We follow him in resurrection. So he's the firstborn from the dead. For if we have become joined together in the likeness of his death, Paul says in Romans 6:5, certainly we also will be joined together in his resurrection. If we're joined together in the likeness of his death, we'll certainly be joined together with him in the likeness of his resurrection. 1 Corinthians 15:20 and 23 say, but now Messiah, that great resurrection chapter. If you've never read, it's one of the chapters I remember reading when I was a new believer to my parents at the at the dinner table. They didn't like it. But I was so excited about it when I read it. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, proof of the resurrection of Yeshua and resurrection, that there is a resurrection of the body. And I got so excited about it. I just pulled out my Bible. I started reading. I said, you got to see this at the table. And but now Messiah has been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. And then it says, verse 23, but each in its own order. Messiah the first fruits, then at his coming, those who belong to Messiah. So we have a lot to look forward to. A resurrection like he did, but he's the firstborn from the dead. And then thirdly, he's the ruler of the kings of the earth. Ruler of the kings of the earth. And I think we'll wait tomorrow for the next one. Hopefully, probably tomorrow we'll finish that up. The three elements, aspects of the Messiah. Amazing. So, from, who's it from? him who is, was, and is to come. And then from the Spirit, sevenfold Spirit of God, and from Yeshua the Messiah. That's who this prophecy, this apocalypse is from that Yochanan is writing. Shalom, you have a Yom Tov blessing.